Good evening. What have you learned for week? Tense discussion. First, I've enjoyed learning from each and every one of you, and I pray that you success with all of your future endeavors. And I pray that God's grace and will overtake you, and that His mercy will carry you. But nevertheless, what have you learned about yourself in terms of strengths and growth? I've learned uh, from the professor the importance of communication, um, and not assuming that people know what I know. Therefore, you must make it as plain, make it plain enough for a baby to understand and to follow. And so you must preach it and teach it in a way where you break it down and you are preaching from a standpoint where you're hitting it and explaining it in a way where even if they didn't know it, now they know it. And so now I've learned to take nothing for granted. Uh, don't assume that they are knowledgeable because there's always going to be someone there, a visitor or someone who might not know, who might be a first time visitor. This is their first time coming to church, and so you want to explain and present the gospel in a way that you're not assuming that everybody is on the same level. You want to be preaching not only to the new visitor, but also that seasoned saint. How has your understanding of preaching the gospel on special occasions changed, widened, and have been reinforced? Um, I have different before taking this class. Um, I didn't know that I wasn't cognizant of the fact that the gospel message also needs to be taught or preached on at weddings. And so I always kind of centered a wedding sermon around the couple and around love instead of incorporating the gospel message in that. And so it has widened in that area, and also it helps me. I've grown in the sense where to understand that I cannot reduce Christianity and the gospel into just the story of Christ. It must encompass the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit to truly be the gospel. What lingering questions about our desired areas for further study in terms of preaching? I think closings. Um, um, my style and my background is, of course, from Black church, and so, but you know, God is not black, white, or whatever, and so I've came to the understanding that we must preach from a multicultural standpoint, where anyone who's listening would be able to learn and gain something from that. And so that means I must somewhat modify my style, and so it won't just be heavily centered into the Black church, but it must be centered into or tied to the move of God, what He is doing in this season at this time. And so I must ensure that I am in sync and moving in tempo with Him, and not confining myself, the Spirit, and the Word to a certain culture, experience, and etc. What do you sense the Spirit leading you next in terms of building on what have you learned and practiced in this course? I've truly learned the importance of preparation, um, asking yourself the hard questions, dealing with the tension in the text, and I want to work on my transitions, as well as, of course, I've been somewhat sedentary throughout because of, working all day and spraining knees and ankles and etc. And so, of course, when I'm preaching, I'm still preaching from the black. I'm moving. I'm articulating my voice to denote and put emphasis on things. But I want to improve my transitions, so they want to be somewhat robotic, and also my closings. I think the professor gave me a good critique when he said never to announce, well, I'm coming to the end, I'm about to close, which is a quite customary of Baptist preachers, black and white Baptist preachers that I've heard, and they are friends of mine. We often say, well, I'm about to close. And we end up preaching a little, 15 or 20 minutes longer. But I feel like I need to work on that aspect of my preaching. And lastly, what have you appreciated about the experience of this class and work of your classmates? I've learned and I've loved the constructive feedback. It's like being um, um, in a workshop where iron is sharpening iron. I learned so much in watching my classmates utilize comedy and see how they crafted their sermons with different stories. And so I've learned so much from them, and I've taken different things from them to improve my messages. And I hope I've been a blessing to them as well.